just recording an intro to my latest video, which is going to be what we accomplished in the garden in 2023. I'm going to break it up into two videos, the lower yard and the upper yard, because otherwise I think it's going to get quite long. So I hope you enjoy the video. Stay tuned for part 2, and also stay tuned for what we did not accomplish in the garden in 2023, because I always make more plans than we can get to. So I hope you enjoy the video. If you do, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing so that I can continue to grow my channel. Thanks. So the most recent thing that we have planted are these 2 Firelight Tidbit hydrangeas. I recently came across these because we sell them at work, and I think they're absolutely adorable. They're neat, they're tidy, they're small, easy to maintain because they're panicle hydrangeas. You really don't have to do anything with them. And I thought they were the perfect shrub to hide our sewage pump grinder. It's only about 8 inches tall, and you probably can't really see it from the street, but you know, it's one of those home infrastructure items that you don't necessarily want to see. And these Firelight Tidbits will just get a little bit bigger than it is so that they hide this. Initially, we had planted here, or I should say the very first landscaper we had out to landscape our front bed and do our bottom retaining wall had green liriope here, the very, very invasive and aggressive spreading type. And it looks good for the first few years, but then it started to take over, started to grow into everything over here. I just didn't like the look, so we got rid of that last spring and planted 5 sugar and spice tiarellas, which would have gotten big enough to hide the pump grinder, and they're really pretty. I like them with their variegated foliage and the pretty pink blooms in the spring, but it turns out that the edge of this bed gets just a little bit more sun than I had anticipated. I mean, you can see now the whole front of our yard is pretty much, front of our house is pretty much in shade, and this really is, especially up against the house, what I would consider a shade bed. But believe it or not, the very tips, the very edges of this bed stick out far enough from the house that for most of the summer and most of the day in the summer, the edge of this bed gets full sun. And it gets full sun in July and August, which is really hot sun, and turned out to be too much for the tiarella, which likes a mostly shady location. And even when I would water them, they would just burn. They would look crispy, they would turn orange because the foliage got bleached out, and just not the right thing for up here. So we just moved these yesterday. Today is September 3rd, so yesterday would have been September 2nd. And planted, like I said, the 2 Firelight Tidbits, which I think look great here. And I will show you where the foam flowers ended up in a different part of the video. So again, these are Firelight Tidbit, 2 to 3 feet tall and wide. I believe they are hardy in zone 4 through 9, might be 5 through 9, but I think they worked perfectly here. I had a list of things that I thought that I might put here, including strongbox or gembox, which we have elsewhere, but I thought they might get eaten by deer. I thought maybe tater tot arborvitaes, which again would get eaten by deer, and I thought they might get just a little bit too big. I also considered Oh So Easy Italian Ice Roses, which a lot of roses say they're disease resistant, and I guess I'm once bitten, twice shy, since we lost a climbing rose because everything in the world attacked it. I just didn't want anything out here that was going to end up going that direction. And again, panicle hydrangeas are really, really low maintenance, so that's why I chose to plant these here. The next thing, most recent planting, which obviously I had showed this in a prior video, these are the Midnight Sun Weigela. Again, this is like the 3rd or 4th thing we've had here. Originally, that same landscaper who planted the liriope here back in the summer of 2015 planted 3 May Night Salvias, which I love salvias. I love the gorgeous blue color of the blooms. But again, by midsummer, they have a tendency to look ratty. And even if you cut them back, you might not get a second flush unless you are in extreme full sun, which we are on September 3rd. It's 4:30, 4:45. I don't know exactly when the sun goes over the house enough so that this bed doesn't get sun, but those May night salvias just never rebloomed for us. And the May night, even though it was plants of the year, gosh, back, I don't know, a long time ago, again, they just get floppy, and we didn't like that look, so we transplanted those out back and ended up putting 3 daylilies here, which, again, previous videos I've mentioned getting rid of daylilies because they are a little bit high maintenance. If you want to keep the blooms, you have to continually clean them up. And the ones that we had out here were very pretty deep orange, which I loved, but the deer kept eating the blooms off, and again, no matter how much we cleaned them up, they just continued to look ratty. To me, daylilies, or at least the varieties we've had, are like a once bloom and then done variety that I just wanted something nicer for the front of the house. So again, these are the Midnight Sun Weigela, which will stay small. These are a 1.5 to 2 footer. Again, hardy, I think, zone 5 through 9. And I just love the variegation on the foliage. Really pretty colors. So that's another recent planting that I think just lifts the front of the house here over either the May nights or the daylilies that we had originally planted here. So I think they look really pretty. On to the next location. Another recent addition is on the side of our house. 2 more Firelight Tidbit and 3 Castle Keep Hollies. I think it's a little bit hard to see because of the angle of the sun. Hopefully you can see those. So again, these are a recent transplant, so the Castle Keep Hollies are a little small compared to what we had here. And we also had 3 Cat's Pajamas. Cat's Pajama, Nepeta, Catmint. So the Castle Keep Hollies will get 3 to 5 feet tall and wide. The Firelight Tidbit, again, 2 feet tall, 3 feet wide. What was here originally was 3 Arctic Fire dogwoods, red twig dogwoods. Those, I believe, are a proven winner introduction as well. I just don't think they fit the bill here. This is a very narrow path between our dry creek bed and the side wall of the house. And the Arctic Fire dogwoods had a tendency to get much, much bigger than stated on the tag. They are supposed to be 3 to 5 feet tall and wide, and they did get probably 5 feet wide, but they got much taller, 6 to 7 feet tall, and they had a tendency to weep over this path, so we could not walk here comfortably. So it only made sense to move the things that were causing us to not be able to walk down our pathway with something that was going to stay small. And I actually think these will look a little more formal. The red twig dogwoods are great for a rain garden or a rain garden berm or a wild area. They were just a little too wild for the side of my house, which is very visible from the driveway, which is right there. So I think these will all work out. And once the Cat's Pajamas get a little bit bigger, and they really start to cover themselves with blooms next year, I think this will really, really look nice. Alright, so let's turn around here, go down the path. Oh, another thing. So, alright, well, you know what, we'll come back to these because the next latest thing we planted were these 2 little quick fire hydrangeas, which turned out to be a really good choice for here. One here, and we have another one here. So, as mentioned earlier in this video, we had been getting rid of daylilies. We had 3 here, and we had 3 at the other end too. They were just the Stella d'Oro because, again, this is what daylilies look like if you don't continually clean them up. And when we were out here digging up the daylilies and putting in these little quick fire hydrangeas, we did clean up all of the daylilies back here. And you can see how brown and just tired they look. So slowly but surely I'm getting rid of the daylilies and replacing them with long blooming, lower maintenance, preferably shrubs, maybe some perennials. And I'm already thinking these three are going to need to go too. But well, that'll be a next year project. But anyway, back to the little quickfire hydrangeas. Again, these are panicle hydrangeas, and they are the looser kind of lace cap. These are a little bit different flower blooms than the Firelight Tidbit. But that's okay. I like these lacy cap panicle hydrangeas, and it provides a nice contrast to the other Firelight Tidbits as you come down this path. So again, these are little quick fires, 3 to 5 feet tall and wide, which I think will work nicely here. It won't be too much of a competition in height with the purple pillar Rose of Sharon, which provides a bit of a screen here in this bed. So again, I chose the panicle hydrangeas because they're long blooming and they are really low maintenance, and you just don't have to do anything to them. They're hardy. This little berm here can be a little bit wet, which the hydrangeas will like. Here's the other one. For some reason, this one has a little bit more blooms, but that's okay. You can see, so I showed these two in a previous video, maybe the garden tour. This particular plant was putting on new buds, just like this one. This one was a new bud just a week ago, and already it's in bloom. And there goes my neighbor's air conditioner again. I apologize about that. But so you can see we have later blooms, which are the pretty pink. Newer blooms, which are really white. And this one has some white and pink just going. So that is a really nice looking shrub that at this time of the year will have different colored blooms on it. So that is the next latest thing. And then, as I had said, we will take a look at the Donica arbs, which line the pathway here. This is another addition this year. We had originally planted here the Evergold sedge and kind of just random perennials. I think there was a lot of coneflowers in here, some darling clementine, coreopsis, and over the years we've just had some random other perennials that we had planted here. But I thought, again, to get a more formal look and to add more evergreen interest to my yard, which up until this year, starting last year, we really did not have a lot of evergreen interest. So that's something I've been striving for in the last couple of years. So these are Donica arbs. I chose them because they stay small, globe-shaped. They can take a little bit more moisture than even most arborvitaes. Most arborvitaes want consistently moist soil. The Donica arbs actually can handle even a little bit more moisture. This is right next to our dry creek bed, and although it is a dry creek bed, it will overflow in times of heavy rain. And this side of the path does tend to be a little bit more moist in times of more moisture. So if we have a really wet winter or a really wet spring, because it is slightly downhill from this side of the path down. And I think and hope that these arbs will be able to handle that. So we have 5 of them here. They will be 3 by 3. These are pretty hardy. I want to say zones 3 through 7 or 3 through 8, but I'll have to double check on that and put it up on the screen. And then we just interspersed every other arb with the Evergold sedge for a bright pop of color. And these Evergold sedges, they do stay evergreen. You know, if we have a really harsh winter, they might brown up. But I just think that that is a really nice contrast between the foliage and the colors of the foliage. And it looks, again, more formal than just having random plantings of things here. I used to think I wanted a cottage garden, which I still do have a little bit of that look in certain spots. But I feel like there's something to be said for a little bit of formality. So let's take a backwards walk down the path here, and we'll walk all the way up and check out all of the plantings that we have managed to get in this year. So again, to the left, the Castle Keep Hollies, Firelight Tidbit Hydrangea, the Cat's Pajamas Catmint. Then over on this side we have the Donica Arbs and the Evergold Carex. And then further down the path we have the two little Quickfire hydrangeas. And I'll just pan over here so we get an entire view. I really think this area looks nice, even if I do say so myself. So let's move on to the next thing. Okay, so I think I'm going in the right order here, but I guess it doesn't really matter. Just trying to highlight what we accomplished in the garden this year. So the next area I am going to highlight is the top of our retaining wall, where we have transplanted the two Lime Ricky hydrangeas, which are a smooth hydrangea. I believe these are about 4 to 5 feet tall and wide. I think they can get a little bit taller than that, but since we just transplanted them this year, I think they're about, well, it's hard to tell on top of the retaining wall, but I'd say they're about 4 feet tall. And we did obtain a third one so that we could have a planting of 3 here. Initially, these were planted. Hi, Pumpkin. That's our girl, Pumpkin. Initially, they were planted here in this bed in front of these 3 Forever Goldie hydrangea. 3 Forever Goldie arborvitae. These are Western, I believe, arborvitae. This bed was not wide enough, and I knew that at the time, for 3 arborvitaes that are going to get about 5 to 6 feet wide, and the 2 Lime Rickies. But at the time, the look I was going for was a picture I had seen, I believe, on the Proven Winners website with those 2 plants in combination, and it looked really nice. It's not going to work here. I knew that. So those Lime Rickies grew really, really fast. They got full height and width in the first season. So they really outgrew the space quicker than I had anticipated. So we moved them here, and we got a third one. And also this year, because of the transplant, the blooms are a little bit smaller, honestly, than they were last year. This one has a new bloom on it, which is a little bit bigger than the ones on the plant that was transplanted. And you can also see the newer foliage is a little bit greener. I'm not sure if these need more water or a little bit of fertilizer. I don't know if the transplant has, I mean, they were transplanted literally months ago. We have had a very dry summer, not as dry as the last 3 summers, but the rain that we have gotten has been mostly really torrential downpours. It just runs right off. The ground is exceedingly dry, so they really might just need some more water. But so that's the next thing. And then we planted these 4 Prairie Winds Lemon Squeeze Pennisetum, which have already put on a lot of new growth. And I love that they are kind of a chartreuse color, which might not be showing in the camera, but they are chartreuse. That's why they're called Lemon Squeeze, and they've been blooming for weeks now. These will get about 42 inches tall and wide, so they will be a nice presence here on top of this retaining wall. A presence that we have not had on this retaining wall. Everything was pretty small. Again, the same landscaper who planted our front bed planted 4, 5, 6 catmint here, Walker's Low, some of which you can see up on the top retaining wall there. We transplanted 2 of them up there, and the rest of them are in another bed, and then one of them is down by our mailbox. The reason why I transplanted them is because this bed does not get enough sun for them to bloom all summer, even if we cut them back. So I thought I would just go for something a little bit low maintenance, and I just feel like, I don't know, I for some reason, to me, the combination of the chartreuse, of the Lemon Squeeze Pennisetum, and the Lime Ricky hydrangea, they kind of play off each other. And a little bit with that golden barberry, which I feel like eventually we'll get rid of. Originally there was 3 maroon colored barberries here that we removed in order to put these lime Ricky hydrangeas in. I'm not exactly sure what would go down where that gold barberry is because it is quite shady there. If you have any ideas, let me know. Kind of at a loss as to what to put there. But anyway, this is the next in our list of accomplishments for the 2023 gardening season. We're going to move down here, and the next thing we got accomplished was over here in front of our fence, where we had a very invasive Rose of Sharon that got way too big, and again was highly invasive. We constantly, even to this day, pulled this out, I think in April, and we're still pulling baby roses of Sharon out of the bed here and out of our grass. So we got rid of that. We moved the 2 Midnight Magic crepe myrtles down here and cut them back hard. So actually they are more full this year than they have ever been. They did not get their full height because of the shock of the transplant. They'll probably get bigger next year, although I'll wait to see because they're not going to get full sun down here. So we planted in their place 4 American Pillar arborvitaes. These are the Full Speed Ahead, which have already put on probably 2 feet of growth, top growth anyway, not necessarily side to side growth. They might be a little bit fuller than they were when we planted them, but they've definitely put on top growth. Again, we'll provide a little bit of an air of formality here, and then we planted this Tokyo Tower fringe tree that I got at work, which is already about 6 feet tall. And that's the reason why I bought it, because it was already tall. It will get about, I want to say 12 to 15 feet tall, 4 to 5 feet wide. The American Pillars will get a little bit taller than I wanted, but because I don't have a lot of room here, I need something that's going to stay narrow. In time, these are going to get about 30 feet tall, which again, I think is going to be a little tall for here. But they're only 3 to 5 feet wide. And again, we need something that's going to stay narrow here. So those will fit the bill. I feel like maybe we needed to space them a little bit better. But for now, that is the other latest project. They may need to be moved, but for now this is how they're staying. And again, this garden will be redone in the spring because this is one of the things we did not complete this project. I wanted to move or just completely get rid of the verbena. I'm not in love with it. These blackberry lilies, there's one there and there's a different kind of lily there. Those will move. We have these little, I'm not sure if they're Asiatic lilies or Oriental lilies that bloom orange in the spring. Those will move. This is the bed I want to put some roses, either Generous Gardener or Queen of Sweden. Add some delphiniums and some foxgloves. That's the look I want for here. So then again, that will be a spring project because we were not able to finish that. We're into September now and I just don't have the energy for more transplanting and moving. So that will get finished in 2024. And I just have to think where the next project was so that we can continue our video. So stay tuned.